Hello friends, this is Thaddeus from Going Nerdy, and I have seen Star Wars The Last Jedi 2 times in the last 24 hours, and might see it again tomorrow and may see it again the next day. But I want to talk about the film. I want to talk about what I liked, what I disliked. Now this is going to be my review of Episode 8, and it is going to be non-spoilery. However, I am going to be talking about specific moments, and I'm going to be talking about specific aspects of the movie. So if you want to go into Episode 8 with a completely clean slate, a completely blank slate without having any information, then turn the video off now, subscribe, share, and let other fans and friends know about it. But if you want to avoid that, go ahead and exit out of it now, because I don't want to spoil the film for you. I will be focusing my review or my thoughts or my comments today on 3 different things: the story itself, the visual aspects of the story, and the characters. Now I will be focusing and talking about the things I liked, the things I didn't like, some of the different areas that could have been improved on, and kind of how I interpreted a lot of this information. But again, if you have not seen the movie, then stop this video now, because I don't want to give you any information as to what you are going to be in store for. Now with that, I will say this: as a film, not as a Star Wars film, but as a film, it was a very enjoyable movie. I would give it a 7 out of 10 because it was well put together, it was well done, it was humorous, the story was fine, it was enjoyable, it had enough intense moments, it had enough drama, it had enough humor, it had enough character building that I felt like it was a pretty solid movie. Definitely higher than I would give most just entertaining movies. Now eventually this will be the type of movie that you just turn on and you put on in the background when you're cleaning your house or you're cooking or doing something else. But right now it is a movie that I will go see again, even though I've already seen it twice within 24 hours. There were some aspects of the movie that I really liked, and unlike some of the other movies, unlike some like with Rogue One, with Episode 7, this isn't a complete remake to the other films. This isn't the giant nod or tip of the hat that we saw with J.J. Abrams' The Force Awakens. This was its own movie, and I think that was what made it enjoyable. Now when it comes to the actual story, the only thing that I'll say about the story, I mean, I did like it, it was enjoyable. It was different than what I had expected. Without going in, and you'll understand what that means when you actually go and see the movie, but it was different. And that was something that I enjoyed and something that I didn't enjoy. Now, it's different from the movies that we've seen, but there were definite elements that we've seen from the Star Wars novels, some from the Star Wars cartoons. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So if you didn't like the cartoons, not a huge problem. But it was fun. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel, there weren't moments in it that were super awkward or super cheesy. There were awkward moments, but it made the characters develop more. It gave value to the characters. There were humorous parts. This was probably the funniest Star Wars movie that I've ever watched. I mean, and funny and actually work. I mean, you have Jar Jar Binks being the comic relief in The Phantom Menace, but this wasn't that. This was really well crafted dialogue. Now there were definitely moments of dialogue that were awkward. Definitely moments of dialogue that made it still feel like a cheesy sci-fi movie, and that being what it is kind of frustrating, but at the same time, it was something that I felt worked. I felt like the whole movie worked. But as far as the story itself goes, I do think that it was really well done. And again, I give it a 7 out of 10 amongst all movies. As a film, as a whole, it is a 7 out of 10. Now, as a Star Wars movie, I would probably rate it somewhere in the realm of top 3. I think that it was really well done, but it was not my favorite. Now, the next section that I want to talk about is the visuals. Now, and one of the things that I didn't like on the first viewing, but actually enjoyed on the second viewing, were the fight scenes. When I first saw it, the fight scenes that I saw, and again, I'm not going to give a ton away about it, were frustrating. They seemed far too choreographed. They didn't feel natural. The pacing felt off. When I watched it the second time, it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me at all. It was definitely well done, and I think it was not knowing what to expect or expecting the wrong thing. I didn't like it the first time, but going in the second time knowing what to expect, actually I loved it. I thought it was really well done, and the fight scenes were great. Now, one of the things that did bug me though was Snoke. Actually, one of the things there was two things about Snoke that really bugged me. One, the look of Snoke. To me, like, he looks so menacing in The Force Awakens. And granted, he's this giant 60-foot statue or hologram that is there, right? Of course he's going to be menacing. That's going to be menacing no matter what you do. But when he was there, he was still menacing. He was still imposing in this powerful character, but very much disfigured. And to me, the disfigurement seemed off. It reminded me felt like Sloth from Goonies. I just saw that, and the way that his face is looking like this, and in the trailers, in the pictures that we see, because it's not moving, it looks normal, but there were a few shots that made his eye look bigger than, or look off center. And that just kept bugging me. Like, I kept watching him, or when I watched him, I saw him, like,
what is up with your eye, G?
What accident were you in that left your eye slightly higher than it should be? Because it was like this, and it bugged the crap out of me. That wasn't the only thing, and I think had that just been it, I would have been fine. But one of the things that really bugged me was Snoke's throne room. And now this isn't anything that we haven't seen before. I mean, we saw pictures of Snoke's throne room a year ago. I mean, we knew what it looked like. But in the film, for whatever reason, it didn't come off the screen like I felt like it should have. It's just that red, while it created a really imposing backdrop, because the Praetoriate guards are right there, the red on red just bugged me. It just didn't seem right, and a lot of the time it didn't feel like it had the gravitas of like Emperor Palpatine's throne room, right? Because you had that space battle, that spaceport looking out when he opened with the window, right? That was awesome. That was like, you saw what was going on. And with the red, it secluded him, and it didn't have the grandeur of space behind it, and that, I think, would have been awesome, would have been amazing. But then, yeah, those were the two things that really bugged me about Snoke. I will say that Canto Bight, the casino planet, the planet Vegas, if you call it, if you will, it was really well done. It was really cool. It felt realistic. It felt like you could totally go there. Now, this is definitely one of those practical effects. This is one of those reasons why, you know, going back to the practical effects from the CGI is so important. Filming on location instead of filming in front of a green screen is vital, especially for Star Wars, because it gives it reality. It gives it you could go there, you could see this place now, and because this was filmed here in the world, you can actually go. I believe it's in the Ukraine, I think. But it was a really cool place, and the way they built the city, the way they made it look, the way they lit it up. Man, I loved it. I thought it was super cool. The scenes that take place there were some of my favorite in the whole of the movie. Definitely a lot of fun and visually appealing. Now, it could be because I'm reading the book Canto Bight right now, which is meant to lead up to the episode 8. Maybe that's part of the reason why I enjoy it, but I did like those scenes. So I will start this section off talking about some of the new characters to the Star Wars universe, and with that, really what I mean is the new actors in the Star Wars universe, and specifically Laura Dern and Benicio del Toro. Now, Laura Dern plays Admiral Holdo. She is a character that we were actually introduced to in the Leia Star Wars book, the Leia book that came out earlier this year. We do get some story development for her. One of the things that is cool, and for those of us who read the book, is you know exactly who she is when she's introduced. The problem is if you don't know who she is, when she's introduced, you really don't understand why she's important, or who she is, or who she might be. And that is definitely something that kind of could be a problem if you're unfamiliar with that section of the canon. And especially if you're just a casual fan, then obviously this is not someone that you're familiar with. If you are familiar with her, you know her, you know her motives, you know who she is, all of that stuff. But the way that she's introduced doesn't give you any of that information, not really, at least. And I will say though that Laura Dern was surprisingly refreshing. The way that she played the character, the way her story arc unfolds, her character story arc unfolds, was a really fun character to watch. There was definitely some moments. There was a moment of tension. I would say the only moment of sexual tension that we've ever gotten in a Star Wars film. Ever. Yeah. But with that, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the way that she played the character. I enjoyed her character. Now, but with Benicio del Toro, I did go in with certain expectations. I went in, and I won't tell you what they are. And this is not just who the character is, the information about him. I won't even go into that. I went in hoping certain things for Benicio del Toro that didn't come out. Now, nothing about his character, nothing about his performance. I will say this is only mildly spoilerific. Only mildly. He plays his character with a stutter. That's it. That's it. I apologize if that has ruined the movie for you. Please don't come to my house with pitchforks and torches. I can't handle that again. That threw me off the first time. The second time I saw it, I was prepared for it. I thought it was really cool, and it made more sense based on his character. But when I first saw it, it was just this weird stutter that really kind of bothered. Next, I will say that the star of the film really is BB-8. I joke, I kid. No, he plays a pretty big role, and I like it. I like BB-8. I think he's a fun character, and he has definitely some comedic moments in this film, and it was fun to see him interact with the different characters, interact with the different scenes, interact with just the story in general. And I liked him. I will also say the Porgs were fun. They were one of the moments. They were one of the side characters that really were able to build some humor into this without making it overly humorous or without making it awkward. If you don't like furry little creatures, then yeah, sorry. Finally, we will talk about Mark Hamill and the dynamic between Rey and Kylo Ren. Mark Hamill's story, again, avoiding spoilers, was an interesting one, and I'm glad to have seen it. Definitely not what I expected, but a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun to see unfold and to play out. He was humorous in a way that was lighthearted. He still had that boyish charm that he had when he was a Tatooine escapee. A lot of enjoyment there, but definitely not what I expected. Definitely not the Luke Skywalker that I had grown to love in the old canon. This is a different Luke. Now, I'm also curious to see what stories and books will be written about him after Episode 8 and between Episode 8 and the events of Episode 6, right? We've seen a few things. We've seen some other stuff, comics, books. We've seen some cartoons. I would love to see the next Disney cartoon actually focus on Luke's building the Jedi Temple. That would be sweet. We don't know what it's going to be after Star Wars Rebels is done away with, which is this season, unfortunately, for those of us who do like it. For those of you who don't, Congratulations. But I really liked him. Now, the dynamic between Rey and Kylo Ren really keeps this movie moving forward. And I won't go into much more than that, but I loved it. I loved the back and forth. I loved the connections. I loved discovering more about these characters, how they interact with other people, how they interact with their position in the universe. It was eye-opening and really cool, and it does give me hope for episode 9. Not a new hope, but it reinvigorates an old one. It reignites a spark that burns or something. But I will say that dynamic, that was a lot of fun to watch. As a whole, 7 out of 10. I think it is a fun movie. It is one that people should buy eventually when it comes out on Blu-ray or DVD or VHS or Betamax or whatever source you're going to be watching this film on. 4K, HK 47, whatever. You will probably buy this film. I know I will buy this film, and I will probably buy it in the highest definition possible with all of the extended features or whatever it comes out to be. I am honestly excited for the canon that is going to fill the gap between episode 8 and episode 9, and a lot of the backstory that really fills the gap now that we know what episode 8 has in store. Are we going to get more information around the areas that weren't filled in? Are we going to get more information about these different things that were left out? And that's what I hope for. That's what I'm excited about. Where is the rest of canon going? Now, leave a comment. If you have watched the movie, great. Hopefully you watched the movie before you watch this. Leave a comment section below. Try to avoid spoilers, guys. Don't be that guy. We're all Star Wars fans here. And it is interesting to see on Rotten Tomatoes, when I checked this afternoon, it was 58% fan reviews versus 95%, critic reviews. So there's definitely some discrepancy. Now, keep in mind, though, the fans who probably went and saw it already, who are voting on whether it's good or not, are the diehard fans who probably dressed up and their significant others. And really, did they like it? Did they not? I think that number, that 58%, gives you some insight as to what the film did. And people will be talking about whether or not this was a good film or a bad film, where this fits as far as quality-wise in the overall canon. Now, leave a comment in the section below. Let me know what you thought. Subscribe, share, like this video. This has been Thaddeus from Going Nerdy, and as always, my friends, stay nerdy.